What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm your host, Tommy B, and this is the Bailey Broadcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the newest trailer from Marvel and Disney called We Celebrate the Movies. This was a great trailer that was only about 3.5 minutes long, and it really did a great job at showing us the first 10 years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what we should be looking forward to in the next 4 or 5 years. So today we're going to be talking about our 10 most anticipated movies that is going to be released coming this year in July, starting with Black Widow, and all the others that were announced in this trailer. Now, if you haven't done it already, please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button down below. Really appreciate it, and then we'll get started. The first movie, now again, this is just my list. It's not the right list, it's just my list. You probably have your own list of the most anticipated films that you're looking forward to, and that's great. Please leave it down below your list so I can see what you're excited for. But again, this is just my list. So we're going to go from 10 down to 1 and talk about each one of them and what we're most excited for. Keep in mind, I am excited for all these movies, but there's just some that are just a little bit higher on my list than others. So starting at number 10, we're going to be talking about Black Widow. This is the first movie coming out in July this year, and this movie I am very much excited for, but I just feel like it's a little bit too late for Natasha Romanoff's story. I love the Black Widow character, and I am, like I said, excited to see this movie, but out of all the movies that were announced in this trailer that we've known for a while, this one is just not, something that I am like gung-ho about completely. I love Scarlett Johansson. I think she's great as Natasha Romanoff. I'm very much, looking forward to seeing Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova, her sister, and probably the future Black Widow in the MCU now that, spoiler alert, Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow is dead. So between those two, and then also the additions of David Harbour, who's the Red Guardian. David Harbour is also known for his role in Stranger Things. Great actor, and looking forward to seeing what he does in this movie, as well as Rachel Weisz, who plays her mother. And just this kind of storyline, it's going to be really cool. I love those spy espionage movies, which this has that similar tone of. And we find out, what she was up to in between Civil War and Infinity War. Obviously, there was some good time in between where we're going to find out what, she was really trying to do and take off of her ledger. So that's our number 10 on our list. Number 9 is going to be Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Another character that I love. Ant-Man is one of my favorite characters. I loved the first Ant-Man movie. Ant-Man and the Wasp was entertaining, but I thought it wasn't as good as the first Ant-Man movie. I love Evangeline Lilly as the Wasp, and I think her character is super cool. But I just thought number 2 was just, a little, I don't want to say boring, but just not, I didn't like the storyline as much. Let's just put it that way. This one, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, sounds like a really cool idea that they have going on, where we're going to be spending a lot more time in the quantum realm, and we're going to be introduced to our first cool villain in this new phase, Kang the Conqueror. Kang the Conqueror has a huge history in the comics. He's a descendant of Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, which, hopefully we'll get maybe a glimpse into, either Reed Richards himself or one of the other Fantastic Four in this movie. But Kang the Conqueror is going to be played by Jonathan Majors, who is a phenomenal actor. You can catch him in Lovecraft Country on HBO Max. Great show, highly recommend. And he's a phenomenal actor. I think the idea of this movie is going to be really cool. We're going to see more of Scott Lang's daughter, probably becoming a superhero as well. In the comics, she becomes a superhero called Stature, who is definitely part of the Young Avengers team. So it's going to be a very cool way how they introduce Kang the Conqueror. If he has been living in the quantum realm in that city that we see for a second in Ant-Man and the Wasp, we'll have to find out. But definitely one I think is going to be very entertaining. Always brings the humor. Hopefully Michael Pena will be back. I wouldn't be surprised. He is kind of a fan of, he's a fan favorite out of the whole series, and Paul Rudd is great. So I'm definitely, excited for that one. But not as much as our next film. To number 8 on our list is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This is a great, franchise. The first Guardians of the Galaxy movie is just unbelievable. It's definitely one of my favorites of all time. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was entertaining. I enjoyed it. I thought it was, obviously with any James Gunn film, the soundtrack is always going to be top notch, and that definitely didn't disappoint in the sequel. But I just thought the first Guardians of the Galaxy was a little bit better than the second. Love Chris Pratt as Star-Lord. The entire cast does a great job at doing their roles and really coming into their own character. In the second one, I definitely enjoyed Kurt Russell as Ego, but it just didn't do what I kind of was hoping it, was going to do. The whole, connection between Star-Lord and Yondu was great, very emotional. And so we'll have to wait and see. Volume 3 is one that I think is going to be coming out in 2023. And it's going to, obviously be some time since the last Guardians of the Galaxy movie. So where this one, picks up from is going to be kind of anyone's guess. I think we'll hopefully get the reveal of Adam Warlock, which they teased in number 2. Who will be playing him, who knows? I think what I heard in the grapevine was that they're going to be searching for the Gamora that we saw in Endgame, who kind of disappeared at the end of that film. And also I heard we might even be seeing the origin of Rocket Raccoon, which would be cool. We don't know how he came about. We don't know who experimented on him. So definitely something I'm excited for, but not as much as our next one. Coming down on number 7 is going to be Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. This movie we just got our first trailer for, and it looks fantastic. I love Kung Fu. This comic book came out in the 60s and 70s, I believe, which was highly based on Bruce Lee, who was, during that time, one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, obviously for what he can do in martial arts, and Enter the Dragon, which is a great film, highly recommend. But this movie looks great. This is a unique, part of the universe that we really haven't seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe yet. Shang-Chi is basically the best martial arts expert in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the origin story that we're going to be getting is going to be pretty damn cool, I think. Obviously, Simu Liu as Shang-Chi looks like he fills the role perfectly. We get Awkwafina in this movie as well. Tony Leung is going to be the real Mandarin finally. And we're going to learn more about the Legend of the Ten Rings, right? We already know parts of it's going to be in San Francisco and other parts of the world, of course. Probably Southeast Asia. Hopefully they'll tie in Madripoor, which would be kind of cool. And obviously there's some type of fight tournament that we know is happening. So hopefully, we'll get maybe some glimpses of other characters in the MCU. Maybe this would be a great spot to reintroduce Iron Fist. That was kind of disappointing from the Netflix series. But definitely it would be great to see kind of, either a quick cameo or a reference to the Iron Fist. Would be pretty cool. Can't wait for that one. I think it's going to be a big surprise for a lot of people, and I think Simu Liu is an up-and-coming star. So can't wait for that one, which will be coming out in September. Coming in at number 6 on our list of most anticipated movies for the MCU is The Marvels. I like Captain Marvel, the first one. I think it gets a lot of hate, obviously because Brie Larson is not everyone's favorite. But I thought, for what she was given with, the 2 directors that helmed the project, I don't know if they were the best options. But I did enjoy the movie. I think it's very entertaining. Set it in the 90s, which I grew up in, was, really cool to see those throwbacks to music and the clothes and whatnot. And I think, Brie Larson did a good job. I think Samuel L. Jackson and her together was probably the best part of that story. Jude Law was good as Yon-Rogg, but I think the sequel is going to be even better. We have a great director, at the helm of the sequel, The Marvels. We're going to be getting new faces. Obviously, you could tell in the title, we're going to be getting Mrs. Marvel, who's got her own show coming out on Disney Plus, played by Iman Vellani. And I think, obviously, being a fangirl that she is of Captain Marvel, that dynamic's going to be pretty cool. And then we also get to see Monica Rambeau, who we see in WandaVision become either, I would assume her name's going to be Spectrum, since her mom was Photon, which we learned in WandaVision. I don't think they're going to, use that same call sign. So this movie is going to really be interesting. I think it's going to tie into the Secret Invasion show that we're getting on Disney Plus as well. I believe between the three of them, they'll more than likely be in space for most of the time, tracking down, maybe more Skrulls. I think we're going to be getting a lot more bad Skrulls. Obviously, we saw a lot of the good Skrulls in the first one. Probably some more Kree interaction. I would like to see the introduction of a Super Skrull, which would be really cool. And ultimately, I think she's going to, just try to find herself again after Endgame. I don't know, what the storyline is going to be per se. I know they've talked about introducing Rogue from the X-Men as the main villain, which in the comics, that's how Rogue gets her ability to fly, which was the interaction and fight between her and Captain Marvel. So we'll see. It's anyone's guess, but definitely a movie I cannot wait for. Now, starting our list of the top 5 most anticipated movies that was introduced in this trailer is Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. This movie, I cannot wait to see what they do. I love the first Black Panther movie, obviously. Chadwick Boseman was just phenomenal as T'Challa and, as the Black Panther, and how they honor him in the sequel, I think, is very pivotal going forward. Obviously, we've had a bunch of people from the cast talk about how Ryan Coogler, the director, has already worked out the storyline, and working around, Chadwick Boseman and the loss, that we've had as fans everywhere. And it's going to be, really interesting to see who takes up the mantle as the Black Panther. They've already talked about how they're not going to recast T'Challa, and they're not going to be using CGI, kind of like Fast and Furious did with Paul Walker. It's going to be a new version of this whole, story. And I think it's going to be really based on Wakanda. I think we're going to see a lot of the same faces, Okoye, Shuri, M'Baku. I think, it'd be interesting to see them all kind of together, trying to decide on who should take up the mantle as the next Black Panther. Even Nakia, I think, might even be a good choice. I don't know, what's going to happen, but in Ryan Coogler, I trust. I can't wait to see more of Wakanda as a city. We get a little glimpse of it here and there in the first one. But his vision as a director for the Black Panther series was great. The color design and just overall, design of the city was so cool. I'm very much excited to see, what's next. Hopefully we'll get maybe Namor as the villain. I know that's been rumored. And the Atlanteans, I think that's, got to come eventually. He's too big of a character in the MCU or in just Marvel Comics to not be introduced eventually. And Black Panther and Namor have a huge history in the comics. So if he becomes the villain of the movie, maybe not villain, but antagonist, and we get an introduction of that character, I would really be thrilled. So have to wait and see. Coming down at number 4 of the most anticipated films is Thor: Love and Thunder. I love the Thor franchise. Thor Ragnarok is easily in the top 5 of my favorite MCU movies of all time. Chris Hemsworth as Thor is just so charismatic, so funny. I think Chris Hemsworth, comic, performances are always a little underrated. If you've never seen the remake of the Ghostbusters with Melissa McCarthy and all those, women, he is by far the best part of that movie. His timing is just priceless. So in Thor: Love and Thunder, though, we're getting a lot of the same faces coming back. Obviously, Chris Hemsworth, we mentioned. Taika Waititi is back as directing the movie. Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman, is going to become the mighty Thor as she does in the comics. And it's going to be a really awesome movie. I have no doubt. Taika Waititi is easily becoming one of the best directors in Hollywood. And along with the rest of the cast that they have planned, I know Russell Crowe has just been added. I believe he's going to be Zeus, which will be interesting. We have Melissa McCarthy in a small role, I believe. Matt Damon is coming back. I've heard Jeff Goldblum possibly as the Grandmaster. Maybe even Loki. We don't know exactly how the Loki show on Netflix on Disney Plus is going to go, or how it'll end. But anytime Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth are on the screen together, you gotta love their interaction. And of course, Christian Bale as God the Butcher is going to be fantastic. Christian Bale is one of the best actors in Hollywood, and it's going to be great to see his portrayal. If it's going to be completely CGI like Thanos was, who knows? But I have no doubt that the performances by everybody will be on point and super entertaining. And starting off our top three, we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This movie, first of all, Doctor Strange is a complete fucking badass. I cannot wait to see what this movie has in store for us. Obviously, we have Sam Raimi, who directed the original Spider-Man franchise, directing this one. And it's going to be a dark, horror-like film, as it should. Doctor Strange is so powerful, obviously, as we all know. I think, in Infinity War, when we saw him take on Thanos, he did pretty good. I mean, he obviously lost, but he did pretty good for a little while. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially coming off of the success of WandaVision. Obviously, we know Elizabeth Olsen, Scarlet Witch herself, is going to be in the movie. How that's going to play out, we don't know. Obviously, with the post-credit scenes in WandaVision, again, spoilers if you haven't seen it, she's looking for a way to bring her kids back. She's looking through the Darkhold, which is right up Doctor Strange's alley, and he's probably going to have to help, control her, emotions, obviously. And I think at some point, the two of them are going to be working together to fight the real villain, whether it's Nightmare or I know Baron Mordo's coming back for the role. So this movie is going to be fantastic. Obviously, we're dealing with the multiverse. I've heard Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man might be making an appearance, and Lord knows who else. I think we're going to be getting introduced to a couple other, heroes along the way. Obviously, America Chavez has already been announced for the film, who is a really cool superhero in her own right. But, maybe we'll see our first glimpse of Ghost Rider. I mean, the possibilities are endless with Doctor Strange. Obviously, he is part of the Midnight Suns team, which is a darker team of heroes who deal with the more supernatural, elements like vampires, werewolves, demons, and so forth. So, Blade. Obviously, we know Mahershala Ali is going to be Blade coming out in the near future, and Ghost Rider and Moon Knight obviously is getting his own show. So this has a ton of potential to be the best movie that was announced. Really can't wait to see what they do with it. So coming down to our number two spot on the list, this was a really a real toss-up for me between this one and number one on my list. It was, I think both of them are going to be phenomenal. But for me, the number two on the list has got to be Spider-Man No Way Home. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and how big this movie sounds just is insane. Obviously, it's going to be dealing with the multiverse as well, coming out this December, and we're going to be getting, not technically confirmed, but we all know that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man's been on set. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man's been on set. We have all these great villains making a comeback. Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus. We have William Dafoe as Green Goblin. Jamie Foxx as Electro. Not to mention, I believe the Vulture, Michael Keaton, will probably have a little role in this as well. It's basically like a Sinister Six meets, Into the Spider-Verse, right? You're going to be getting a crazy-ass movie, and I can't wait for it. This is going to be apparently the last movie, Spider-Man movie in the MCU, unless Sony and Disney make up another deal, but I cannot wait to see how this movie plays out. It just sounds insane. So coming into our number one movie is got to be Eternals for me, especially with Chloe Zhao coming off of her Best Director win in the Academy Awards for Nomadland, which also won Best Picture. I just can't wait to see this movie, the scope of it. Obviously, she's so good at capturing natural lightings and using on set kind of pieces. She doesn't like to do a lot of the green rooms and everything else. So everything that we've seen in this trailer for, celebrating the movies that they released was just a little tidbit. Obviously, we're still waiting on the full-on trailer, but the cast looks great. You have Richard Madden playing Icarus from Game of Thrones. A great casting right there. He's also in a show on Netflix called Bodyguard. Highly recommend that. Kit Harington, Jon Snow himself as the Black Knight, or Dane Whitman as they're calling him for now. But you have Gemma Chan as Cersei, Angelina Jolie as Thena, Selma Hayek as Ajak, Kumail Nanjiani as Kingo. I mean, it just sounds like the next Guardians of the Galaxy, really, almost like an Avengers-like team. It's huge. These, beings are immortals who were created by the Celestials thousands of years ago. I think they said that this movie is going to, start with them 7,000 years ago. And how the Celestials created them after the Celestials created the Deviants. And hopefully we'll get an idea of the X gene possibly being created because of these creations of the Eternals and Deviants. Keep in mind, Thanos is probably going to be making a comeback as a younger version of himself. Technically, Thanos was an Eternal with the Deviant gene. So that's why he was so hard to fight, right? I mean, this guy was insane. And we're going to get a whole team of Eternals now who I think, obviously, we have to find out where have they been this whole time. I mean, going back to the first Avengers movie, they probably could have helped there. They could have helped in Infinity War. Were they sleeping? Were they off planet? I think that's going to be the main questions for me going into this movie. But very excited to see just, the overall story of this new team. A lot of people aren't familiar with the Eternals, but Jack Kirby created them, I think, in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. But I think a lot of this movie being my number one has to do with Chloe Zhao, who is, now an Academy Award-winning director. And for Marvel to have, pegged her down to do this movie and hopefully sequels, after this is very promising. I can't wait. I think it's going to be a huge, huge hit. So there you have it. That is my list of most anticipated movies that they were announcing in that trailer. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your list down below in the comments. And we will see you next time on the Bailey Broadcast. Take care, guys.